Hey guys, welcome to an episode of Marketing Management Money. This is Ryan Murray along with my host Ryan Owens, and we're going to be chatting today about the different types of managers that you have worked for, that you have been, and we're going to try and pick out the good traits, the things that we're striving to achieve, and trim off some of those bad traits. And I want to kick it off with this. There's not a gold standard out there. There is not a perfect manager out there. Anyone that gets into management, whether you're managing a full business or whether you're managing a team or a department, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have personality conflicts. Some people that you really like to work with, other people that you don't like to work with, and that's just human nature. So we're not trying to, in this episode, convince you that this is the right way to do management. But there are definitely some better ways of doing it and some not so better ways of doing it. And so I think that's what we're going to hit on today is we're going to be just kind of a self-check. This is kind of just looking through and seeing what your management style is, how you act today, maybe how that has evolved over the years, and then look and see what things could you be doing. What have you learned from others? And we'll wrap it all up into a nice little package.
This is super interesting because I'm going down memory lane hardcore right now. I'm thinking about all these past jobs that I've had and the different managers that I've had and styles that they've used and experiences that I've had with them, really, right? Mm-hmm. Also, I'm kind of thinking about what I know of your work history and everything, and I feel like our paths vary quite significantly.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I think is going to be interesting. It'll add some flair and some spice to this episode, which I think will be pretty cool.
So let's kick off before we get kind of into, some of that memory lane. Let's talk a little bit about our current management styles. So we're pulling back the curtain. All right. So, here at Marketing Management Money, you've got you and me that we run the show. We contract with different people to provide elements of what we're looking at, but it's just kind of, it's mainly the two of us that are running this show, right?
Yeah, right.
So
we don't have that middle management here quite yet.
Well, and that's what I want to start off with is a lot of times when entrepreneurs are looking at it and they're just like, oh, I'm not part of a team of 50. Yeah. It's like, well, it's just me and these two guys that we started doing something. And I'm like, well, you still have a management style. There's still the way that you and I interact and the way that we oversee different projects. See, with again, I'm pulling back the curtain. With us, you tend to oversee a lot of the contract labor that we do. Yeah. For whatever reason, I don't know, we just kind of threw that on you and you're just like, hey, make sure that, that they're all being taken care of. Yeah.
And I feel like that's really where I land a lot of times in a lot of cases. And I have throughout, again, I mean, we're not quite going down memory lane yet, but as I'm reflecting on these experiences, like I've always landed in that space of behind the curtain, getting things done. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's the role that I fill in this company as well is, I do a lot of the behind the scenes work of making sure that these different cogs are.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, what are some things that make that effective? What are some things that, throw that off course?
I do really well obviously if I'm personally invested in whatever it is that is being asked of me and I have a clear definition of what it is. If it's something that I can, especially if it's something that I can set up and then replicate fairly easily, if I can almost automate that process, that's where I do really well in managing different aspects of the things that we do. And in even interfacing with these people that we contract with, it's like, I love using some of the different elements of the stack that we use to just automate the process of replying to emails or reaching out to customers or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm. And so this is one that I find really interesting. Between the two of us, I'm more analytical than you are.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to your management style, you're, I would say, more methodical than I am.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, so like you want to replicate the process. You're all about building the stack, making sure that it's got a nice flow to it. Mm-hmm. And, I'm kind of just like, whatever, make it happen. Just
and I want to cut out as much of the fat as possible. I don't want to mess around. I don't want to waste time with all this unnecessary crap that doesn't work or doesn't need to be part of the process. I got enough crap going on. I don't need more wasted time. You know what I mean?
And so this is the first point that I want to cover here is a solid management style is to create efficient processes. And this is a great management style. I've seen it implemented.
Oh, shucks.
I know.
Thanks.
But I've seen it implemented with many of the businesses that I've consulted with. And when they have an efficient process, people understand what needs to happen and they know what their role is. Because you can't achieve efficiency unless it's got to be clear. There's clear direction when there is efficiency, because if there's not clear direction, you lose efficiency. And so one of the one of the best ways to manage is to manage by efficiency. Just saying, okay, all we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to identify the waste, and we're going to just pull that waste out. And if this is wasting time, if this is wasting energy, if this is wasting emotional energy, that's a big one.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's where, honestly, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's honestly where I was going to take it next with what I feel like is a downfall in my personal management style is just that, wasting emotional energy. I don't want any of that. I have zero interest in.
So let's get a little clear on what we mean when we say wasting emotional energy. This isn't like sitting in the corner and crying.
Right.
I guess it can be.
It often involves
leads
that,
to that
for sure. No, but a good example is when it comes to managing people and teams. I'm not particularly fond of the experiences that I've had in that realm, because it requires so much of me. It's not methodical, right? It requires so much of me to sit down and evaluate each specific scenario, and there's no coming up with this way to deal with it oftentimes, right? And you're constantly having to check in with people and tweak and adjust, and I don't know. I don't like that.
So
I don't like people. I don't want to deal with people. I'm a behind the scenes person for sure.
I do like to deal with people.
Which is funny because I freaking do a podcast. Weird.
I know. There's so many things. Like, we pulled back the curtain and people are like, really? That's how you guys operate? Weird.
Yeah. No way.
So for me, we run our company here. But I also, I'm on the management team of a small business, and I oversee the sales and marketing for them. And I also now am heavily involved in their R&D process. And so I'm in this management space where, let's see, what is it? I've got 10 people that I manage. I think it is. Yeah. If I forgot someone, I'm really sorry.
How would they know? How would they know who they were, or if they were counted?
I have one guy on my team who does religiously listen to the podcast, and he loves to talk to me about it. It's fun. It's good times. And so, anyway, so when I'm overseeing this group of 10 people, my management style is very relationship based.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And what I like to do is I like to just find out what's going on in people's lives. I like to make sure that they're happy. My belief is that a happy employee is going to be a productive employee, and an unhappy employee, and it doesn't matter. I'm not talking job satisfaction. I'm talking like, are they happy with their life?
Yeah.
And if they're not happy with their life, if they're, going through crap at the home front and they're bringing that into work, then, that's dragging everybody down. And so I spend a lot of time just chatting with people, finding out what's going on in their lives, making sure that they are, happy, content, that, they feel fulfilled, and then trying to align some of the tasks and the job duties that they're doing with what they like to do. And, that's very much my management style. It's a different management style. I was actually talking with the owner of the company not too long ago, and he was kind of questioning. He's like, you spend a lot of time just sitting down and talking with your team. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, are you sure you're using that time wisely? I mean, that seems like you're just wasting a lot of time. And and I told him, I said, look, it's not. There's a specific purpose behind it, and we've got the numbers to back it up. Like the sales are moving in the right direction. The R&D development process is improving. I mean, there's a lot that we can do to back up and say, yeah, this is actually working. And that's kind of what I told him. I said, hey, if ever this is not working, sure, I'll change. But when people are happy, they do better. And so I'm very much relationship based.
Yeah.
When I manage teams and, when I work with businesses, I want to know what's going on and how happy are you?
Well, and I think especially for small companies, entrepreneur, small business owner type companies, I feel like that's such a valuable approach to managing a team, because oftentimes in these smaller circles, these smaller environments, you have a much more palpable culture, and that culture is dramatically affected by each individual person on that team, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you are like me and you're in that situation managing a team, it's just a disaster, dude. Because I honestly, unless I had the right people on my team that could just essentially read my mind,
wow.
I know I'm sounding super arrogant here, but honestly, like if people weren't on the same page as me, they would honestly just hate my guts and hate working with me, because they would be like, man, we don't get any direction from that guy and he doesn't know where he's going and blah, 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 blah. But because it's all like in my head, I just want to handle things. I just want to like,
Oh, okay. So you hit on something that we've talked about, some recommendations of some different styles that work. I want to talk about something that doesn't work, but I see this happen a lot.
Let me say one more thing really quick.
Okay. I'm excited for this because you cued me in, but I'll let you finish what you got.
So I just wanted to take that same scenario and apply it to your management style, where it's more of like I said, everything's in my head. With you, it's like you are constantly, you're constantly ensuring that everybody has a firm grasp on the vision and a firm or a high level of buy-in, right?
Yeah.
To whatever this vision is, whatever the direction is, whatever the goals are.
Yeah, anyway, you're absolutely correct. I think that team buy-in is huge, and I will take as much time as it takes.
Yeah.
To make sure that everyone is like, yeah, we can do this.
And I'm totally like, I know what I'm doing. Just trust me. Just do what I tell you to do. All right. I figured it out. I'm very methodical. Just do it, please.
So one of the bad management styles that I've seen as managers, whether we're overseeing big groups, large teams, or whether it's a scenario like we brought up with, producing this show where, it's a much smaller team and we're just outsourcing and managing that piece. But one of the problems that I see is as a manager, you're a human being.
Yeah.
And as a human being, you don't always have the answers. And oftentimes as managers, we feel this pressure to have the answers. And so we'll keep leading people without knowing where we're going. And like, that's one of the worst mistakes you can make as a manager. If you don't have a clear vision, stop, sit down, take a minute, get some vision, know where you're going before you start trying to lead people. We think as human beings, if you're put in a leadership position, you feel like, well, I'm the leader, I should lead. And it's like, no. You should only lead if you know where you're going. Don't get people lost just because you're the guy in front.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy when I see these managers that are just like, well, I'm the boss, and so this is what we're going to do. Why are we doing it? Because I'm the boss, And I knew a manager. Oh my gosh, drove me crazy. So he didn't know what to do, had some complex problems that he was supposed to be working on, didn't know what to do. So instead of actually working on these complex problems, he started looking for all sorts of cost-saving measures, like how to reduce the energy of the company or how to reduce the amount of paper used in the company. And, it just was a waste of time because it didn't provide any vision. There was no direction. It's like, and so instead of addressing the actual issues that were happening in the company, he was spending all his time dodging those issues because he was out of his comfort zone. He just, it was a Peter principle where he got promoted to a level of incompetency, and as a result, he couldn't lead, but he wasn't willing to admit that he couldn't lead. And so he kept just pulling everyone around. And, and so I used to do some consulting for this company, and I don't do the consulting for him anymore, but I bumped into one of the people that I used to do some consulting with, and they're still at this company. And I kind of asked them, I'm like, hey, how are things going? And they're like, it's fine. We're just still doing the same stuff we've always been doing. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured as much, and then, I just asked them like, hey, how's the management doing? And they're just like, oh my gosh. And
you already knew before you asked the question.
I know. I was kind of fishing a little bit, but it's
get that drama.
It's one of those things where you just, you look at it and you're like, if you don't know what you're doing, admit you don't know what you're doing. Either step aside or take the time to learn. But don't keep leading people into the dark just because you have a title behind your name.
All right. I feel like at this point, we're kind of beating a dead horse here.
I'm sorry.
Because obviously there are other management styles than just my management style, which is not great in team scenarios or personable team scenarios. And then there's yours that is. What other management styles would you, or have you seen? Have you seen in your soiree into business? And
so, one of the things that works really well, and I've seen a lot of owners do this, and that is they build an intimate management team. And what they do, their management style becomes the idea of, surround yourself with people who are better than you. And that's actually a very effective management style. If you can put your ego aside and realize that there's a lot of smart people out there, and bring those people into your management team. And so it's very much a collaborative management style, and I think it's an excellent approach for many people. And it's honestly kind of where you need to evolve to once you get to a certain size in the business. Okay, because a lot of these other management styles. So I was talking to I was talking to someone on my team actually, and they were sharing with me some insight. They had served many years in the military, and they were talking about some of the different management techniques that were used in the military. And
there's only one management technique used in the military. Get down and do it, damn it! Now, yes, sir.
Now, if you actually look at, I love looking at World War I and the evolution of warfare from World War I to present day. World War I was like, if you want to understand bad management, World War I became such a horrific war because of bad management. And so, you know, when you start looking at the way that we deal with conflicts today versus the way that we dealt with them, you know, with the two big world wars, like we're a lot better. We've avoided a lot of serious conflict and a lot of unnecessary bloodshed. And so I'm going to argue that management in the military has improved pretty dramatically over the last century. That's
okay. Yeah, I can bite off on that. I mean, there definitely is this. There's definitely a camp that I think would disagree with that. In that, we've also spent a lot of resources and otherwise human collateral, right, in decades-long endeavors that seem to just switch names and.
Well, okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I get where you're coming from.
Without coming right out and being like, damn those Republicans, or those Democrats, or those Freemasons, I don't know, whatever. Whatever you want to blame it on. Like, the Illuminati.
So I guess this is what. Oh man, we're kind of all over for a second. Yeah, there's the management technique of just bouncing and not having any clear direction that we're on right now.
Yeah. Well, but seriously, has it improved, or has it just shifted into? You know, are we in that? And I absolutely feel like you could get like this in a business as well. So, I mean, pulling it back in a little bit, I feel like you can get to a point in business where you placate, right? And I've seen this plenty in throughout my career. And, you know, you have these managers come in that are just, they've got a stand that they're going to make, and they're going to die on this hill, and they're stubborn and obstinate, and they make a point right out the gate, you know, and then subsequent managers come in and they learn the history, or the owners will hire based on the fact that they don't want to have that experience again. And so they hire someone who's a little bit more cohesive.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
there are a lot of people that get hired into management because their, you know, predecessor was just so bad that they're just looking for a change.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that plenty. And it's not always a good thing. Management can absolutely shift in the wrong way. Right?
It can, but let me bounce back to.
Let's pull this back into management styles. I feel like we're deviating here.
So when I was talking to this guy on my team, and he from the military, he learned that you really can't effectively manage groups larger than 12 was the number that he gave.
Ooh, interesting.
And I actually agree with that. Where, you know, these people that are like, oh, I'm over 200 people. I'm like, no, you're over a dozen people who are over teams that adds up to 200.
Yeah.
And sure, I mean, if you want to inflate your ego and be like, oh yeah, I oversee, 200 people, like, great, inflate your ego all you need to. But the truth of the matter is you got your core people that you're working with. And going back to this whole idea of a management style of surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you is a great management style, because at the end of the day, you really can only manage a handful of people effectively. The other thing that I want to talk about, and as you were starting to allude with, these managers, they come in and they're very obstinate. The term management, subconsciously, it triggers this idea of authoritarianism. That
in Western culture, right?
See, and I don't know enough about management outside of Western society.
Oh man,
I know that you've actually studied this quite a bit, and
it's a whole other episode.
But I look at it and I'm like, managers really aren't. They shouldn't be these authority figures. They should be conductors. They should be people that are bringing things together. I picture a conductor of a symphony.
Yeah.
And the job of the conductor is to stand in front of everyone where everyone has a clear vision of when to start, what tempo to play at. Mm-hmm. But people are making the masterpiece happen because they're, they know how to read music. They know how to make it beautiful. And the conductor's not, he's not driving results. He's not making it happen. Yeah. He's coordinating the effort.
Right.
And in my view, that's such a better management style
I totally agree.
Be like, I'm not the authority figure. I'm the coordinator.
And oftentimes I feel like the manager, man, that's such a beautiful example. I love it. Oftentimes I feel like the manager feels like they need to be the expert in each role, right?
Yeah.
But that's where hiring people smarter than you comes into play, because in an orchestra setting, the conductor isn't going to be on the same level of expertise as the guy that's in the percussion section is in that particular arena, right? Yeah. Granted, he'll know plenty about it, especially at that level. He'll be a wizard in most people's eyes, but comparatively, the guy that's in the percussion section or whatever, playing the violin, whatever you want to go with, they've spent the vast majority of their time perfecting that skill, that one skill, right? Mm-hmm. Or that small group of skills. And so when you have somebody like a conductor come in that knows enough, and they that's the thing, they have to know enough to be able to conduct that person.
Right.
About the general gist of not just percussion, but music in general, right? They have to know enough to be able to conduct that person, as well as rely on that person to be the expert in that arena. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And the same exact thing applies to management. You when you surround yourself with people smarter than you, not only does it require you to be a wizard to some extent, right? In most people's eyes, but you also have to be able to give up your ego and rely on those people to be those experts.
And trust that they're not going to sabotage you or stab you in the back. I mean, we could do a full episode on that, but I know that we're starting to we're getting to where we're going to wrap this up. I have one more style that I really want to talk about.
Okay.
There are infinite management styles, and it's usually a blend of I'm going to take this quality that I like, this attribute that I like, and I'm going to blend them together to develop my management style. But the management style I want to talk about to wrap this show up is the student mentality, the constant learner, and so you come into management with this idea of, I need to learn, I need to understand. Now, there's a big difference. We all hate when we're under someone who they don't know what they're doing, and they're just like, I'll just figure this out. I mean, we're all learning together, and everyone's like, no, we actually know what we're doing. Why are you in charge?
Yeah. And as harsh as that is, because that's pretty harsh, right? But as harsh as that is, you don't want to come across this scenario where somebody just gets promoted into a management position and they've been with the company for, 6 months, and they have no previous management skill or experience. And all of a sudden they're like, I guess I'll just figure it out. It's like, no, man, no, that's not.
We have a system that works. Don't mess it up.
Right. And there's no way that level of, unless there's an incredible amount of luck, there's no way that level of lack of experience is going to do good things.
It's like the little kid. Don't touch that dial. Don't push that button. Just here, you sit over here and play with this toy.
Right.
And
and they keep coming back to it like, what does it do?
And I've seen, where you'll have like a supervisor that will take their manager and put them in the corner with a little toy and be like, okay, don't touch anything. Don't screw anything up. Let us just do the work and you just play. And
that happens so much, managing your manager. I mean, that can be a good thing, managing your manager, right? But it also can be a really, really not good thing because that means you just have the wrong person in that seat on the bus.
Yeah. And so that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the person who they've got a high level of humility and they come to the table. This would be a great example of learner mentality of management. You get into the conference room and they sit down and the first thing that they say is okay, I want to hear all of your ideas. Because they're wanting to learn from what everyone is bringing to the table. And they're like, okay, we've got this problem. We need to solve it. What can we do? They're very inquisitive. They're asking a lot of questions to, instead of coming to the table with solutions. You have a lot of managers that they're just like, okay, we've got this problem. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And, that can work. But again, that borderlines that authoritarianism that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
And, and so someone who is coming to the table with questions and saying, okay, we've got this problem. What can we do? And allowing people, to flesh out some ideas
and collaborate and build team trust. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm talking about with this learner mentality of management. And I think it's a great management style, very inquisitive, collaborative type management style.
And under the circumstances and I feel like that's kind of my secondary management style, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I call it my secondary management style because it only appears when I'm forced to manage people. And so, when I manage people, that's very much how I prefer to do things because, again, letting other people be the experts in their field. Like if I'm working with a graphic designer, I'm not going to be like, hey, let me tell you about how to structure files so that, your graphic design processes can be more efficient. It's like, no, they are the graphic designer. They know how to manage their files and how to keep things neat and pretty. That doesn't mean they'll always do it, but they can at least, tell me the right way that it should be done, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So very cool management style. I love it.
This is what we're going to wrap up with. I would love to hear from you guys different management styles that you've seen that have worked really well, some that haven't worked very well. Let us know. You can find us, Ryan, at marketingmanagementmoney.com. We'd love to hear your style and always kind of learn and improve. Maybe we'll do a second follow-up episode if we get enough of you guys commenting on some different thoughts. So that's Ryan at marketingmanagementmoney.com.
Take control of your business today. Go to LearnDesk.us and search Marketing Management and Money for the small business insights you've always wanted. Be sure to stay tuned for new episodes on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, and make sure to subscribe to be notified when we release bonus content such as interviews and short discussions.